This week on the Fifth Trooper podcast.
Everything in Warhammer is blown up and it sucks, right? Like, there's nothing good. There's no, beautiful city you fight in. It's all destroyed terrain and broken citadels.
Welcome to the Fifth Trooper podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Fifth Trooper podcast. My name is Jay Shalansky, and joining me today is the one, the only, Evan Bulris.
Hey, how's it going?
No Nick today because he's a jerk.
Fair.
No, I don't know. He had something going on personally, and we're recording a day late, which is my fault because tons of personal nonsense work stuff, yada, 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 right? So I don't blame him. I blame me.
Fair.
So there's several things I'd like to talk about on this podcast today. And I'm just going to list them out here so you guys know we're getting this stuff. The first thing we're going to talk about is just some house cleaning stuff. We're going to talk about the Northeast Open. We'll talk about the mats and the giveaway. The second thing we're going to talk about is the Nick Freeman thing that's going on. If you don't know about that, we will explain that when we get to it. Number 3, and separate, I want to make this clear, separate from number 2, we are going to talk about cheating today. And then number 4, we're going to try to get to some casual play stuff if we can, like terrain and painting when we get there. So the number 4, we'll see if we make it. I want to, so we will. How's that? How's that sound, Evan?
Sounds good.
Okay, buddy. So number 1, house cleaning. So the Northeast Open. So all of you that are listening, if you haven't signed up, register for the Northeast Open on our site. The actual event was supposed to be at the mall / between the mall and this hotel, like the hotel convention center and inside the mall. Well, the whole event has actually gotten moved to the New York State Fair. It's this big fairgrounds for that. You don't know that we do the big New York State Fair. It's huge. And they just built this brand new expo center there. What was that, last year, Evan?
I believe so. It was for the, they built it right before this last New York State Fair, I think.
Yeah, so last year. So it's this big expo center. Think of like a traditional convention center. So that's what this is. And because the show has just gotten so big, we got moved over there, which is still good. And here's why. So not only you don't have to change your hotel for those of you that have booked, keep your hotel. They're going to have free transportation. I think they got like 4 or 5 transportation buses that are going to be running all day to get you from the hotel to the convention center. The convention center is about 6 minutes?
Yeah, they do this at the
mall.
They do this for the New York State Fair all the time, where they do you park at the mall or something because it just gets absolutely insane there. But this won't be a New York State Fair sized event, but still, it's nice to not have to drive.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll just park at the same hotel. We're booking the same hotel. You're gonna stay there, which is right across the street from the mall, which is all those positive things we've been telling you about food and bowling. And so all that stays the same. Just the actual location of the play and the con is going to be about 5 minutes, 10 minutes down the road. And so there'll be free transportation down there, more room. It's going to be great. And there's still going to be food there. So instead of the mall food, which we were talking about before for lunch and stuff, they're actually going to have, I forgot the number, but it's a ridiculous number of food trucks are going to be there. So everything from like barbecue to hot dogs to sandwiches to anything I'm sure your heart could desire is going to be there from a food perspective. Food trucks. They actually are going to have beer and wine outside. And then the convention center itself sells beer and wine. So we are 90% sure that you can have a beer and play.
That's the best way to play Legion.
So So for those of you that are interested, there should be alcohol on premises that they will sell that you can buy and drink while you're playing. So I'm kind of excited about that because the mall, I didn't really know about the drinking thing. I didn't know where we were specifically going to be. But this is going to be great. We're going to have a whole gaming section. It's going to be really cool.
I'm excited. It's going to be a pretty good time.
Yeah. And then I don't know if you guys saw, but we just announced this week that last place and second to last place of the event will actually win a Fifth Trooper mat. Your choice, dealer's choice. Now, we have talked on the Scoundrels yesterday, episodes of Scoundrels. They said that we should give the last player the Salt Planet map because they'd be in the salt mines. But I may do that. No, I'm just kidding. Whatever one you choose. So you'll have the choice between the mud and the salt for second to last place and last place. And it was interesting because a bunch of people are like, well, why would I even try to win? I'm not going to tell you now, but I'm going to tease a little bit. The prizes for first, second, third place are going to be way better than the mats, even though the mats are super cool. Don't get me wrong. First, second, and third are going to be amazing too.
Yeah, it's going to be, from what we've got lined up and some of the surprises we'll announce close to the time, it's going to be pretty radical.
Yes, and I really want everybody to feel like to have fun. I don't know if that makes sense. Evan, so you went to the last chance qualifier and you were there for high command. I just and LVO was the same way. Like there's just so much was trying to be fit into 1 or 2 days that it almost felt like I didn't get to hang out with anybody or go talk to anyone or go like hang with all my friends that I've been talking to on Discord or Facebook. It just felt like Legion was the only thing we did. And it was from like 8 a.m. till like 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, the official events always feel sterile because they have to get so many games in. And it's different. Going to a fan event like it used to be like Steel Open was amazing for X-Wing, or Kappa Cup had Legion last year, and also X-Wing. Like those events, fan events are always the ones to go to. That get put together. The official ones always feel a little like, just play, and you're done. These you can actually kind of enjoy because there's nothing really. There's some really awesome prizes on the line, but like no invite to, Worlds or something, right? You can just kind of enjoy it and there's no pressure, right? It's just kind of like hanging out, having a good time. You get some prizes. We'll have giveaways. Like, it'd be odd for everybody not to get a little something, right?
Yeah, I would say if you come there is a 90% chance you're gonna get something.
Those are the odds I like.
Well, no, there's a 100% chance actually because I'm gonna tease it a little bit, no specifics, but you're gonna get like a swag bag. Every single person will get a swag bag that'll have a bunch of stuff.
So there you go.
So you're getting something for showing up.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and then first, second, third will have prizes. Second to last will have prizes, and then there's going to be a bunch of random prizes in between and handouts. So not only will you get the swag bag, but there's a really, really good chance you'll get one of the giveaways as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it, and I really want it to just be like you said, like Steel Open, like just this casual, cool event. Like we're all having fun. You can laugh with your opponents and like just have a good time. And that's kind of what we're looking to do here. We are going to be streaming too, so you may have a chance to be on the live stream, which will be a ton of fun. And if you haven't seen our Adepticon streams, it's going to be kind of like that, but I think it's going to be more laid back. I don't want it because that was nationals. I'm not really worried about it being that level. I want it to be fun for people at home to be able to be involved. So
no, it's gonna be a blast.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Yeah, so speaking of the mats, I've decided I was going to extend the sale on the mats until Monday, but I've decided I'm going to extend it through this week. So that'll be next Monday. We will what is that? That is the something. That's the 13th. So May 13th will be the last day that the mats will be on sale at the $59.99 price. Then on the 13th, they're going to jump up to what the normal price is going to be, which is $69.99. So you got one more week to get a mat at the reduced price. And so keep an eye on the store too. I've got some stuff planned. We're going to be selling some different stuff, and I'm trying to make the store accessible and have lots of products for you to be interested in. So keep
and
an
if
eye
you have
out.
ideas of stuff you would use regularly, let us know too.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. hit us up, the Fifth Trooper Podcast at gmail.com. Or go to our website and hit the contact us page and let us know if there's stuff you want to see us sell. I know a lot of people have been giving us ideas for mats. Like we're looking at a beach one,
a beach world map,
a beach world map. Also a world that maybe has grass and water and some sort of high end city, from a particular age of Star Wars.
Actually,
yeah.
jokes aside, doing some KOTOR places would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what I'm talking about, Scarif and Naboo, those are two that we're actually looking at. We're talking about Corellia.
Okay.
Right. And then maybe some Knights of the Old Republic stuff.
I think some of that would be interesting. Like a pure cityscape.
Yeah.
Like right from the beginning of the game, right?
Even I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so because I think just a side tangent, maybe another podcast, like how Ready's kind of underutilized and you have to like Krennic makes it good. But anyway, like maybe Fleet Troopers actually become really good when they ready and they get like there's a city around, right? Like fighting in the streets. Maybe that'd be like a lot of fun for them. So city boards are always cool in Infinity, and maybe a cool like Knights of the Old Republic map come out would be neat too, because they talked about, I think it's confirmed that they're doing a Knights movie.
Either TV show or movie or something. Yeah, it's gonna be in that era.
They're hitting that era for something at least.
So are you talking about was it is that Taurus Upper City? Is that the one or
Jeez, I think so. Either the upper or the bottom.
Or the the bottom was super cool too.
Because I just kicked it on. They had it on sale on Xbox One for Xbox for like $6. And I'm like, it killed my old Xbox originally. Because I used to run 4 guys with double pistols, and so my Xbox couldn't handle it and fried it. So I never actually got to finish it. And so when it came out again, I'm like, I'll do my pistol run this time, and maybe won't kill my Xbox. So I was just playing again, and even on going back on original just Xbox, like where they kind of upscale it for the one, it still looks really good. And I was just thinking how cool it'd be to fight through like a lower city or something like that. Like, just like, a side thought,
Well, or even like, any of those, like, what was that? The level 1313 or whatever that they were going to make, or...
Oh, yeah.
Or in Rogue One where Cassian is on that one, like those like kind of like alleyway type areas. Yeah, that would be super dope. And then I was thinking, actually, we'll save this for the casual. We'll start talking terrain and stuff at the end. I have some cool stuff for that. So, but yeah, so that's the mats. That's the Northeast Open, and then the other thing is go to thefifthtrooper.com for all of this. Northeast opens up on the menu bar, then for registration. Then also we're doing a giveaway for a tank and a land speeder. So go up there, fill out the form. Really, we're trying to get you guys to like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I know right now I can't because of the because of the new privacy policies of YouTube and Facebook. I can't force you to like them or subscribe to them to get an entry into the giveaway. So what I would ask is for you, even though it's just a visit to the website, if you could please toss us a like on Facebook and subscribe to our channel, that would be very welcome.
Sure, yeah. It helps us a lot to get some even to get that closer to that partnership with YouTube, right?
Yeah, that would be great. And it gives us opportunity. I know everybody hates them, but if we can get ad revenue, then it gives us opportunity to do some different stuff and produce other things for you guys. So that's
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, so that's all the housekeeping stuff. So now I'm gonna switch gears here, and I want to talk about the Nick Freeman stuff. Now, I want this to be clear. I am going to report on this right now. I'm not doing a character assassination. Evan and I are going to try to refrain from what's the word I'm looking for, Evan? Like
personal opinions.
Opinions. Yeah, personal opinions on this. I'm going to walk through the facts because there's been a lot of confusion. And I just want to clarify what is happening for those of you who have been involved and don't understand. And for those of you that don't know what we're talking about or casual players, it'll give you a little insight into the competitive market, and don't get scared. Okay. This happens in competitive games. Okay. So here's what it is. Let's start with who Nick Freeman is. Nick Freeman is the writer of Impact X. He's very involved in the community. He's supported the community a lot. He's done a lot for the community. He writes terrific articles for the community. He's one of the early adopters of the game and has been a community leader for a while. Okay? So let's start there.
Yep.
Yesterday, Tuesday, so we're recording this on Wednesday. So on Tuesday, he posted a post to Facebook that said the following, and he posted it on Discord, all the Facebook pages, everywhere. Hey, community. I just got an email from Asmodee saying that I cheated because I used the Minoc order tokens, and they have retroactively DQ'd me from high command and rescinded my world's invitation. Does anyone I played with the day 1 or day 2 feel like I cheated them? Serious replies only. I have to build my case to bring back to Asmodee. This, because of Nick's status and because of the Facebook and social media in general, incited this entire flame debacle. Here's where the problems began. Someone in the comments replied to Nick, as many people did, and pointed out that this wasn't actually what was happening, that they believe the reason that he received this DQ, and because this was happening from Asmodee was because he was actually doing something with his order tokens that he shouldn't have been doing. So he then, after multiple messages, he then updated his Facebook comment saying, upon further clarification, I am being accused of actual cheating, not just using the wrong tokens, which is false, and I will be challenging the decision made by OP. So I want to clarify 2 things. Number 1, you can use tokens that are not made by FFG as long as they don't have any embossed sides, right? So you can't like feel that it's a core troop or something like that.
Yeah, they have to be smooth on both sides. Yep.
And the order tokens that he had were smooth. They were the Minoc tokens. They're completely fine. For anybody worried out there, those tokens are fine. Your LVO tokens are fine.
Yep.
Your any flat token is completely fine. Don't worry, please.
Yep.
It was misrepresented. Second of all, what had happened on the stream, and I have gone through all of our streams and I have documented this for us for this podcast. Multiple occasions. Now, we didn't have every occasion on the stream because we were moving between multiple cameras, but multiple occasions during all his matches on stream versus all opponents, Nick does this thing with his order tokens, and I'm going to walk you through it. This is all fact. You can go to our high command stream on YouTube and you can watch and just skip to the parts where Nick is doing the order phase. This is what happens. Nick gives out a command card. He decides who he's going to give orders to based on the command card. He has all his order tokens laid out flat. So not stacked, but just flat on the table. He then proceeds to look at most, if not all, of those order tokens to find the ones that he needs. He then places the tokens that he wanted for the command card out onto the battlefield next to the figures, then does not shuffle his order pool. This is a violation of gameplay. It is clearly stated in the rules that you must shuffle order tokens. Number 1. The second problem here is that he now looked at all the order tokens and you could presumably know which ones are which by looking at all of them, right?
Yeah, has knowledge of, right?
Right.
Now, whether intentional or unintentional, has knowledge of.
Correct. I am not saying that he could have memorized them. I'm not saying that he did memorize them. I'm not saying that he did not memorizing them. I'm going on optics only and just telling you what was on the stream. Okay? Now, I have reached out to Nick, and I do know what the letter to Nick said. Now, I'm going to first summarize the letter. I'm not going to read you the whole letter. I'm just going to give you the summary. Is that because of the stream that Nick potentially, based on the video, only the video, and what is seen on the video, Nick committed several gameplay violations that may have provided him a major advantage throughout his games. So he failed, A, to randomize his order tokens, and could have potentially had information of what those face down order tokens were. Now, as a result, they issued a disqualification from high command, which then results in a rescinding his invitation to Worlds. Okay. A lot of you thought that, well, it's one game, it's one time, this isn't a problem. We have 2 of his games on our high command stream where he does this same thing during both games. So now if they were to only issue losses to him, he's now lost twice. So he would have been disqualified from Worlds anyways if they retroactively gave him losses.
Gotcha.
So I saw a lot of comments online saying, well, he should only have gotten a loss for that game. Okay, but they would have been 2 games he would have had a loss for, which would have subsequently disqualified him from Worlds anyways. Okay? So that's where that all stands. I reached out to Nick because I believe that we don't tell one side of the story, that we will tell all sides of the story. So there's a couple parts here that I'm going to just kind of summarize because it's a lot and some of this is already online. So LJ Pena posted a thing online with Nick's permission, basically giving a small statement. And Nick is, I think he was in disbelief. Number one, he says that, he couldn't believe that someone would have accused him of counting tokens. And at first, the reason he said his statement was wrong was because he was upset and that he thought they were accusing him of something with the tokens, and it just was unbelievable to me. So to him, so he just went and posted. He's been trying to reach out to his prospective opponents during that to see if they felt like he cheated. He's trying to go back to Asmodee with kind of all this information, and take it back. Here are the questions we asked Nick, and I'll go through these and then we'll talk a little bit more about what else Nick said. So the question I asked is, have you looked at the tape of the recordings of High Command? And if so, can you see why this was an issue? And I'm going to read word for word here. I have looked at the stamp that was provided to me in the comments. I haven't watched the full games. I can see why it is an issue, and although unintentional and no advantage was gained from it, it is still definitely an infraction. I do believe it warrants a punishment. However, I personally think a DQ is too harsh. Just for everyone catching up, I'm reading the question I asked Nick Freeman and his response. This is my question. In a number of order phases, there's no true shuffle after you've looked at the order tokens. Why is this? Nick Freeman. I am not sure. I have to guess because I was exhausted from lack of sleep and lack of food for the weekend and was focused on planning the turn ahead. It is a poor habit that could have been avoided by using a bag. My next question. Why go to Facebook and the community instead of keeping it low key? I brought it to Facebook because I believed the punishment outweighed the infraction. I brought a bag with me as well as the original cardboard tokens in case someone had a problem with my tokens. No opponent raised an issue with it during a game or after, and I was given a warning by judges and never given the opportunity to address the behavior. I was given the opportunity to keep quiet from OP, but I felt it was more beneficial to the community to address it in the open and shape the community going forward, even if it looks worse for me in the long run. The next question. What was the content of the letter from FFG? So I do have that. I just stated it to you. It was not, and this is me talking. It was clearly not what Nick had originally posted in his Facebook post, is what they said to him. So his response to that was, in hindsight, I realize it looks like I tried to cover up what the accusation was. But what I said above was I was shocked and didn't comprehend what I was being accused of until someone pointed it out in the comments. And then I kind of just, and then I asked him if there's anything else that he wanted to say or to get out there. He said he's hoping he's still going to go through with his appeal for his own peace of mind. He's going to have conversation with his opponents that he had that day so that he can mend the fence between them. He said that the opponents he's talked to thus far don't believe he was intentionally cheating, and that they don't believe that the mistakes changed the outcome of their games, the ones that he reached out to. So right now he's saying as of this time, he doesn't intend to attend Worlds no matter what their response is to his appeal. He said he's just going to try to repair the trust and friendships that were broken between him and his opponents. So, he thinks for a while he's probably just going to step away from the community because when he posted that, although he did get some words of encouragement and people asking fair questions and unbiased questions, he did receive a lot of intentionally hurtful and harassing messages, which I will say were true. I did read some of those. That's a fact. He's talked with LJ. He's gonna be shutting down his Patreon. His site will be going up, continue to stay up for a while, but they don't really know what they're going to do after that. LJ announced today publicly that he's leaving Impact X so that he can focus on some of the other initiatives he has going on. So that was Nick's response. I did reach out to FFG as well for comment, and this is FFG's response. FFG personnel will not confirm nor discuss any past or ongoing investigations beyond directing all such inquiries to the current FFG organized play participation policy. For all of those listening, you can find that at www.fantasyflightgames.com/en/op/s policy/. So, that is what happened. Those are the facts as I know them. That is Nick Freeman's response, FFG's response. And I think the only thing I would say from that is that what we saw on the stream and what FFG has said that was the infraction is a gameplay rules violation. That's no disputing that.
Yeah.
And
that's
whether intentional or unintentional, it doesn't matter. It's a rules violation. And being such a high level and being on stream and being that it's seen multiple times, that is what I assume happened. And I don't even have to assume because that's what they said. Throughout your recorded matches, you failed to sufficiently randomize your order tokens and had information of what your face down tokens were.
Yep.
That's pretty straightforward. So for any of you out there that had any confusion, if there was any misunderstandings there or you didn't understand what was actually happening, I hope that cleared it up. Evan, do you have any questions about that? Is there anything that wasn't clear during that statement?
No, it's I was quiet because I was just listening to you talk about it because I only saw like posts, right? And I see the original post, then it hits then everyone starts commenting, right? And it goes from 10 comments to 100 comments to 200 comments, and so it just kind of explodes, right? So it's hard to emotion takes a lot of people in this kind of thing, so it's hard to when you're first trying to figure out what the heck happened, because you don't have all the information as a guy who's just looking on a Facebook post, right? So you're just kind of
Right.
like, what is even going on? So it was. I don't really have any questions because it's pretty like the fact that I didn't know you'd reach out to him, so it's good that we actually have like a back and forth, right? It's not just here's the thing. So no, it's pretty clear. It's I'm also trying to stay very neutral on the thing. Uh, but yeah, it's pretty, you know, by the letter of the law, it is an infraction, right?
Yeah, and so for everyone at home who's listening, I am not. I hope that it was clear that we are just stating the facts here. And I reached out to Nick clearly, and I gave you his responses to what what happened, his thoughts on it. You can go watch our High Command Adepticon video and you can see it for yourself so that you understand what's happening. And I want to make it clear that in the comments to his message, it was only one timestamp was provided. It happens multiple times during that video. So for those of you that were like, oh, it only happens once, why is he getting DQ'd? No. Multiple, every order phase that we catch excuse me, that was the wrong word. Every order phase that we see on the YouTube channel on our High Command video has this same infraction. And so I don't want to comment. I know that FFG has to do something. I'm not going to comment on whether I think the punishment is fair or unfair. I'm just not going to say because that's not up to me. You know, Evan and I here aren't jury and executioner. We're trying to just be the news so that you guys can make an informed decision for yourself.
Correct.
And so I hope that was complete for you out there. And if you do have any questions, or you don't feel like I clarified enough, or that maybe you want to know more, or there's things that you didn't understand by what we just said, reach out to us, the Fifth Trooper Podcast at gmail.com, or go up to thefifthtrooper.com and fill out the contact form, and we'll get back to you if it's appropriate.
Yep.
Clearly. So that's that. And so, I mean, I know that's a huge deal for our community right now. I think we're going to be okay. I think that we just need to take this for what it is, and we need to not. I would encourage anyone who's listening to us, if you want to comment on it, great. But don't be nasty. Don't, for nasty's sake, if it's something constructive you want to add or something like that, of course, feel free. But if you're just being nasty, it's just uncalled for, and we don't need it. It's clearly. I think sometimes people get nasty because they feel like they don't feel like things are happening, or they don't feel like someone is taking care of what they need to take care of. But it looks like FFG's doing what they need to do, and Nick responded, and he's not shying away from the conversation. And so I just want to make sure that we got everyone's side in that, and I hope we did that.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, so the next thing I want to take a real short segue here. Just a little pointed out. So LJ had asked if I could point this out. Yesterday night, the single elimination started for the Invader League on Tabletop Simulator. They have 32 players duking it out. 10 Rebel, 22 Imperial.
Jeez.
Yeah, there's lots of double bounty. Lots of Sabine.
I forget that's a
yeah, because Bosk is legal online. There's one Pelp, lots of Krennic, of course. Armor is very light. There's 77 people filled out the brackets in the bracket competition, which was way more than he expected. And then he had the Discord tokens, which I think we told you about. Some people asked about. They're basically sold out. There's like 20 sets left. I'm sure it's less now. This was as of last night.
Yeah, I ordered.
So I'm sure there's even less now. And then so I think we told you about the Legion tournament community coordinating thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that they have a locator map is now up. And so you could go to the Legion Tournament Circuit.com. That's going to tell you where all the Legion tournaments are. It's going to tell you about terrain for competitive play. It's going to tell you about all kinds of crap. So if you're interested, if you want to know where the next rally point is, if you want to know anything about any of the Legion tournament stuff, head on up to the legiontournamentscircuit.com and go check it all out. They do need people to submit more locations for the locator map of where games are being held, so on and so forth. And so go check all that out. That's from LJ Pena's /Talk Polite. Just some passing on some information. And if you're interested in any of the Invader League games, our boy Endless David from Notorious Scoundrels, he has a Twitch channel, Yavin Base, and you can check him out there. He streams a ton of them. So you can go up now. There's a bunch recorded from the last couple days because it'll be Thursday, right, by the time you guys listen to this. And so there's a bunch of games already up there. He'll be streaming games as they come along. So go check it out. And again, a lot of you have reached out and asked us for the Discord link. Please keep doing that. I have no problem giving it to you. Reach out on Facebook, reach out, email, contact us on the website, any of that stuff. I'll send you the Discord link. No problemo.
I didn't have enough time this year, at least this season for the Invader League. I really wanted to get back into it, but it was the problem issues I had are like trying to find times with the other guy because other people have lives too, right? And so it was like it's like that friend who has a different schedule than you, and you're just never gonna get to see each other again, right? Like I work nights, I work days, so that's why I didn't go back because I just couldn't ever. I didn't want to be a bad player and not be available to get games in. But I have because I have to go to bed early because I have to get up early for work. So like my time slot is very specific at night. Like I have to be. This is the time, and because the game takes about 3 hours, right? So I didn't get to do it this year, and I'm kind of bummed out because I'm with all the new stuff coming out and being added in, that would have been fun again. But unfortunately, I just had to bow out this time.
Yeah, I agree. I really wanted to do it too, and I've been listening to the Scoundrels talk about it and some of our other friends. And it's just been tough because I really wanted to be part of it, but man, I don't have time.
Yeah, it's if only they say more hours in the day, right? It's geez, with everything we got planning going on and all the other stuff. It's just I just sometimes just want to play video games, man. But those are even. I bought the Division 2. I've put a whole 3 hours in it.
Oh yeah.
Let's see if these came out with the new expansion. We put the first 2 hours in last Sunday, and we probably won't again until maybe next Sunday, right? It's just
right. Yeah.
There's no time.
Hey, I have a question for you, Evan.
Yeah.
What do we do in June 1st?
June? Oh, yeah, that's a good point. We're heading up to the Millennium Condor event. It is an X-Wing event in Quebec, hosted every year. It's a one-day event. We were asked if we wanted to stream, so we agreed. It's going to be pretty good. He's got, if you check out his Facebook page, it's Millennium Condor X-Wing. The amount of prizes he's getting is just absolutely insane to see all of his swag he's getting for this. It's even the metal cards I showed you; those look pretty cool. So that's coming up. If you're going to be in Canada, you should stop by and play, or stop by and say hi if we're up there. But we'll be doing the stream, and we've got a good thing going on. It's my friend Pat from my old Radical Squadron, and myself, and then Jay's like the everyman, right? So we keep up on what's going on in the game, what's good, what the current meta is, blah blah blah. And Jay really hasn't played a whole 4 games of 2.0, maybe. So he's played very little.
Yeah, maybe 4.
Yeah, he's so in Legion. This all kind of he was going to get back into it, then our Legion thing took off. So he's got a family and has time for one game, right? That's very understandable. So he went with Legion, and so it's gonna be interesting to see. You'll hear the Shalansky ideas be like, "Hey Jay, what do you think's gonna happen?" And right, like it's I think you'll
Yeah.
go that way. Oh, that's interesting because that ship can do blah 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 blah. So we'll be doing a stream. It's just gonna be a lot of fun, and hey, it's more content from us, and that's always fun.
Yeah, so if you're in the X-Wing or you're just into us, go ahead and check it out. That'll be June 1st. We'll be up in the great city of Quebec. And yeah, I think it's going to be great.
And I do know we have a lot of Canadian listeners. So
We
come by
do.
and see us. Yeah, we do. And just come by and say hi if you want to talk some Legion with us. I'm sure we'll have time. It's a good time.
Yeah, that's exciting. Thank you, Evan.
No
A lot of
problemo.
stuff happening on the old Fifth Trooper calendar.
Well, geez, it's like that, and then the next month is our event, right?
Yeah. We'll be streaming that too. That'll be crazy. It's gonna be great, guys. It's gonna be great. Lots of chances to meet us.
Yeah,
in the near future. So
I think it's just cool that
fun.
we're having more time to have like continuous content. And then, are we doing Nova? Is that a thing?
That is in the works.
Okay.
Yes, we are talking about doing Nova. For everyone listening, there is a 89% chance we will be doing Nova.
Okay, yeah. So we'll be, there's a good chance we'll be. I know I'll definitely be playing in Nova, and Jay will be streaming. Or if he can't stream, he'll play. Right? Well,
exactly.
we'll heck it. We'll make a weekend out of it.
It'll be wonderful.
Yeah, it'd be wonderful for you to get to play, right?
Yeah, that would be nice. But whatever.
I'm not bitter. Whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna cry myself to sleep
Perfect.
tonight. Yeah, so that'll be good. And also, where are we gonna be? Oh, the 18th is the RPQ up here, right? So we're gonna be at
yeah, I forgot about that too.
Just Games, is that what it is?
Yeah.
In Rochester?
That's the first round. I have a feeling you'll probably, if you're in the Rochester area, Buffalo area, that's the first one. I can't imagine that Millennium won't get one in like a second wave kind of deal.
Yeah.
Or I don't know how they do it, if it's just by location. But that's the first one and close enough for us to get to, I believe.
Yeah.
There's one actually in Canada at Dueling Grounds in October. We'll probably end up just being at that one too.
Yeah.
It's it's about a 3-hour drive. It's not bad.
Yeah, we'll see. They just had another one in Canada that our boy Chris Cook got his Rally Point invite, so that's good.
So it's gonna be an interesting time. I want at least like 2 chances to try to get in, because I don't. Man, it was sweating to get in that last chance to try to make it into high command.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get it. I mean, who doesn't want to? I want to win it early, so I don't have to worry about it. But it's that'd be nice. It'd be nice to win, Jay.
No, I get it. It'd be nice
just win something once.
Yeah, it'd be nice to play. Yeah.
those dang Cook boys.
Yeah, always winning. I'm shaking my fist for the audio audience here. But yeah, so yeah, that's what's going on. Okay, so now this is what I want to talk about. Because of this thing, and I want to separate these things because I don't want to sit here and associate what we talked about earlier with what we're going to talk about now. But I feel like the conversation needs to be had, so I'm going to have it. And the conversation is going to be around cheating, okay? And so I what I want to do is I want to discuss 2 things. The different ways of cheating that we have seen. And then I'd also like to discuss how you can avoid being accused of cheating. Even if you're not cheating, if it's unintentional, just something dumb that you're doing, how can you stop being accused of it? Okay. So let's start with things we've actually seen people do. Number 1, this happened at an event that there was someone that was, let's say you had your suppression tokens, okay? And at the end of the round, you take 1 suppression token away. They were taking multiple suppression tokens away, like 2, and saying that, oh no, there was only 1 on him. Yeah. So you need to keep it, if you're playing competitively, keep an eye on suppression tokens and the number of tokens that are out, and just try to keep a mental tally of what's going on, in the game. The other thing that people do, that this is another complaint that has happened, is applying cover one way but not the other way. So let's say I'm shooting Evan's unit of Rebel Z6, and on the way through, I'm applying light cover to an object. And then when Evan trying to shoot through the same object, I'm then like, oh no, that's heavy cover.
Yep.
Okay, so agreeing to cover ahead of time is going to be key for your success
So
there. To avoid that conversation.
on that,
Yes,
sorry,
Evan.
I didn't mean to
Yes.
cut you in there, but I'm saying to that point,
Go
each
for
of
it.
our tables for our event will have a sheet that just defines cover as is, right? So there won't be right. Wasn't that our plan? I think. Okay.
Yep.
I
No, you're
I
right.
just want to make sure. So
Dang, Evan, making stuff up
I
on
don't
my
know.
podcast.
Good idea.
No,
So
that's fine.
I mean,
That's fine.
players can always agree or disagree on what call it, but if
here's the thing. To that point, Evan, not to interrupt you back, but whatever agreement is made during a game is considered
yes,
a rule. So if you make a gentleman's agreement during the game, that stands as what was ruled. Okay, so always agree on cover. If you're at a tournament and there aren't sheets that discuss the different cover types and what they are, you should walk through every piece of terrain with your opponent to make sure you both understand what terrain is.
Yeah, that's I think that's going to be real. They did that at Nova a long time ago. Like there wasn't a whole lot of cover, albeit, but they had like a sheet that said this is that, this is that, this is that, and that was actually really great because you could just say, "Here's a sheet. Here's what it is. I agree with the sheet. Do you agree with the sheet? Yes, okay." And then when we go back to it, there's no, "Oh well, actually, I think this is more area terrain." Like no, I hate that because to that point, if like I'm just so I've never had good terrain ever, like in my life that I've owned personally. So when I play, it's like books and boxes and tin cans and soda cans, right? So to me, like if I even just got nice looking boxes to put around, that'd be good enough for me. But at least it's definable. And the cool and problem thing with Legion terrain is it can look awesome, but then it also becomes hard to define. Sometimes, like, well, it could be this or it could be that. But I like it just laid out like this is the sheet says this. I want to do this, right?
Yeah. Another one is how a number one overall interpreting rules in your favor, like the cover we were just talking about, but also interpreting the cards in your favor or in your opponent's favor. So that's something you need to talk about beforehand when you've picked your deployment and your battle cards. So when you get to the objective card, make sure that maybe you read it out loud. And if you don't understand it, or there could be like moisture evaporators, for instance, is a confusing one. So like, make sure you read it out loud and be like, is this what's going on? Make sure if you're using key positions that you're using the new rules. Okay. These are things that you should be paying attention to.
Yeah.
Read it out loud and get agreement with your opponent before you start playing.
No, that's very good too. It's there's too many times I have people not quite like we're halfway through a game, and then they go, "How do I win?" And then I go, "Oh no," right? Because I'm like, because I totally know how we win, right? Like I've got it, but then I feel because they'll be newer or something. But even seasoned players like, "Oh crap, it's not even defend the most like intercept transmissions or something." Like, yep, it is round 4. Like it's so that's that. To your point, yes, that's very important.
Yeah, and for instance, a confusing one that confused me for a while was intercept the transmissions, where it has the end game scoring. It doesn't mean the end of 6 rounds. It means when the game ends, you score. So that's a confusing one as well. So, making sure that that stuff. So, I guess just to quickly tie this in earlier to what we were talking about earlier, order token stacking. This is for you and your opponent. Make sure their order tokens were shuffled and stacked or in a blind bag. And then, even if you feel like just to be safe, you can ask to cut your opponent's shuffled
Yep.
stack or offer your stack to be cut, like in Magic, like you would do with
Yep.
cards. Okay. So that's an easy way to avoid
I've got
that.
a bolt action bag that I love because it has bolt action, but I never get to play bolt action, so I'm going to use it. And I throw
Hmm.
them in there and give them a good shake. And I will never, if someone says, "Can I shake your bag?" I will always say, "Well, yes, you can."
Yep. Okay. So now we're going to move on to dice. I want to make it very clear to everyone out there there are ways to manipulate dice. I'm not going to tell you all of them. I don't want to give anybody ideas. You have the internet. You can Google it. There are ways to manipulate dice. If you feel like your opponent's dice are rolling abnormally hot at any point during the game, you can request to use your dice. That your opponent
Yes.
needs to use your dice. You can call over a judge and say, "I want to use my dice. I want to use the same dice pool as my opponent." That is a legal uh, request during competitive play. Furthermore, you can use the Fantasy
Sure can.
Flight Dice app. That is
It
legal
is a
during
official Fantasy
tournament
Flight
play.
product.
So that's with dice. You're more than that's a very reasonable request, and you have every right to request it, and your opponent has to follow
Yeah,
that
I actually
request.
prefer sharing dice pools. I own like 3 or 4 sets of dice for that because I just put them in the middle, and that it just
Yeah.
gets rid of that. Oh, it's your dice. You're winning because of your dice. I hate that.
Yep.
So I'd rather just say, "Hey, man, let's just share." And if someone like we're sharing the same dice, we're using the same dice. Some that that way, there's no like, "Oh man, this guy's dice rolls nothing but crits." Why? Like it's just mine roll good as just as they roll bad. Like I would love for you to roll my bad dice, but it's I prefer the shared dice pool honestly.
Yeah. So there's that. Okay, so now let's get into movement tools and range ruler tools. Here's some of the stuff we've seen. Movement tools. Holding the movement tool in the air to move a unit that is not blocked by terrain. So sometimes if we're in front of a barricade with our unit leader, we'll put the movement tool on top of the barricade and just try to get as close as possible to our unit leader,
Yep.
to make the movement. Now, this is okay as long as your
Yes.
opponent agrees. And so, where some of the problem is that we've seen some stuff where they use the movement tool in the air, not on the board, not against a unit miniature, to move their unit as close enough without any blocking terrain. That is not okay. You can call a judge, or you can ask them to redo that because
Yeah.
that's
So
unacceptable.
so something there's like a lot of stigma about calling a judge, and there really shouldn't be. The judge is there to be called, right? He's there if you want line of sight.
Yep.
The worst is when like I'm really not so I'm really like I won't really be sure about something, and I'll just err on the side of whatever like the other guy wants. Sometimes, like I can see your foot, and I'm like, I really don't see it. Like, no, I can see it. I'm like, okay, whatever, take the shot, right? But at that point, if you're really not sure, like this defines the game for me. This is more of a tournament thing, right? If this defines the game for me, like I really don't think you could see my guy. Call a judge, man. Or if you're not sure about a rule, call a judge. That's what they're there for.
Yep. So range rulers, measuring range. So this has happened more than once on one occasion where let's say Evan and I have two units. Evan wants to shoot my unit. He measures with his range tool and he goes, "This is range 3." And most people will just do it like let's say it isn't their activation yet. Let's say Evan's just measuring range, okay? He goes in his head, he goes, "Okay, that's range 3." He doesn't say it out loud. His opponent then, let's say it's me, then measures the range. And then the next time when Evan goes to activate that unit, magically the other unit is no longer in range. What happened? His opponent bumped the nearest unit or nearest mini in that unit out of range. And because it was never said out loud and agreed upon that that was the range, Evan can now not go back and
Yeah.
say, no, we agreed that that was range 3, right? All you can do is be like, I
Yep.
thought that was
Yep.
range 3. How is that not range 3? So, kiddos, here's what you do. Measure the range. Go, hold on 1 second. Can we agree that this is range 3? Or range, whatever the range is, so that when it comes back, even if it's an accidental bumping by your opponent, it may not even be purposeful. It could be accidental, but if that other mini gets moved out of range, you can now you go, no, we already talked about this. We agreed that that was range 3. You didn't move them. I haven't moved them. Something happened between then and now, but that doesn't change the fact that we agreed that
Correct.
that was
Yep.
range 3.
That's a good way to do it. The worst part is like it's a double-edged sword sometimes because you're trying to secretly, even though you're obviously measuring stuff, you're like maybe you have a different plan, right, of how it goes. And then so you're like, oh, that looked real close. I
Sure.
think I'm gonna, maybe he doesn't think it's in range, and then, that happens. But no, you're more right than I am, right? I'm not really like because you're right. Call it out. Make the call. Make sure it's both verbally.
Right.
Uh, that's the right way to do it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of not let's okay, so put cheating aside. A lot of miscommunication and misunderstandings can happen in life in general. So just calling out and talking about it and getting agreement from your opponent is the best way to approach it. And
That's actually a super important point.
yeah,
Is just get both verbal agreements on stuff because things can happen. There's a lot of unsaid actions where like people will say he's shooting and then they'll shoot and then pick up the dice and re-roll, and I'm like, hey, and he's like, oh, I meant to take an aim. I'm like, okay, well, would you have taken an like right like you didn't put the aim token down, nor did you declare it. So if you'd rolled all hits, would you have moved after? Like right there's like
right,
there's some stuff. So like when you do stuff, don't just assume. Be like, even to the point like I get to the habit where I put the token, I get out my little bag, I put it next to the guy, even if it's just like a sniper aim and shooting. Right, like I say aim and shoot. Like nobody, right? If you call it out, no one will make you put the token out. But I still do just to it's just part of the habit, right? Like
yep,
there's no like a judge can see it, so he doesn't like from a judge's perspective. If he's watching our game and he can't hear us, but he sees me pick up dice, roll, then re-roll, he'd be like, "Hey, what'd you just do?"
yep,
Right? Like there's no where's the aim to what's going on?
yep, yep. So communication in life, in your relationships at home, in everything is key. Communication.
It's true, very true.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on. That's that. So now a little bit lighter fare.
Oh, I
I
have one more, Jay. I
yeah,
got one.
please. Okay,
Not to
never mind. This is
just
not lighter fare. Never
so
mind.
this is
Evan
something my
just ruined
opponents.
it.
Yeah, I'm
No,
sorry, Jay. Sorry, I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
just like throw a grenade at the zeppelin.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's fine.
so dice for me is showing your hits and not picking them off the table. So like I'll roll. Let's say I roll 4 hits. All right, and I keep those hits on the table until the defense die are rolled, and vice versa. So it's not like what I've seen before in other games is people will roll dice, say, oh, 2 hits, and like pick them up before the other guy can see the result, right?
Yep.
So keep those dice. Like I'm kind of absurd with it, because it's a Warhammer thing where I also when I do a Z6 or a shot, I have one hand with my dice. I go 6 whites for Z6, 4 for the troopers. Like I show all the dice I'm going to roll before I roll them. I know that sounds crazy too, and that's a little bit of a etiquette thing. It's so because man, sometimes with a Z6, like let's say the guy is rolling 7 dice instead of 6,
Yep.
would you really notice? Like if he's just rolling that one extra die, with all those other dice, especially with like fleet troopers. Like I'm rolling like 12 dice sometimes. What if 13 are in there? Would I notice?
Mm,
So when I do fleets, I do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then shotgun, and I show them before I roll them, and show them before you roll them. Use that. That's good
yep.
catchphrase. And then you roll them, and then you keep the hits out, and you leave them out, and then you can start taking away. Like you have heavy cover, so I'll take 2 away. And when the guy rolls defense die, you can have him keep those 2, and then so you can both get a physical view of what the results are. Because there's nothing worse than someone going 3 hits, picks them up, and then you're like, man, that really looked like 2.
Yeah.
But you
Never
can't.
touch your dice once they've rolled.
Yeah, just like line them up so they can see. You've got
I wouldn't even
like
do
I
that.
use like
Just leave them.
like let people see. Yeah, let people see them. That's my big thing.
Yeah, and then
Count them and let people see them.
even surges. Don't even touch the surges. Just like, yeah, they surge to hit.
Yep. So that's good. It just that thing bothers me because in other games I've definitely been. I used to play Warhammer, War Machine, and a guy would roll dice, say hit, like just roll and pick it up before I really got to see it, and I didn't know any better, and I was just like, yeah, okay, why would he cheat me?
Right.
But people will do crappy things like that. So just dice are a big thing for me. So if you got roll them out, let them hit, then cool, right?
Yep.
Let the like I see.
Absolutely. Are you done now, Evan? Can I move to fun stuff?
Oh, I guess so.
All right, nice. Okay, so let's talk for casual beginners. So last episode we talked about painting a little bit. We talked about spray and my recommendations for different types of spray cans and stuff for basing your models. And so now I'd like to talk about painting. So getting to the actual paints. There's 3 main paints I would recommend using. That is Citadel. They're basically Warhammer, but Citadel paints, Army Painter paints, and then Vallejo paints.
Do you like the Reaper?
I don't. That's why I'm not including them in this list.
Okay, just
yeah. No, that's okay. And I barely like Vallejo. So my good, better, best scenario is Vallejo at good, better is Army Painter paints, and then best is Citadel. So Citadel's pricey. Like, not gonna lie, it's a lot of money. Yeah. But I find that the paints, they just go on smoother. I don't have to do as much work with them to get them what I want to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I can do a quick shake of the pot, and they got this nice little lip on the lid that I can get the paint out of. I don't have to like put them in a what's it called? Like, I don't have to put them on something to get the paint. Like, it's just in the lip of the paint pot, or I can dip it into the paint pot. So easier brush, getting my brush in, easier to get the paint on. I like the consistency of it. They're a little bit thicker of a paint, and I like that. You can water them down if you want. So, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you can water them down if you want, if you need to, if you feel like there's a need, so you're not getting a lot of glopping and glooping and brush strokes. But they're good. They're just good paints, and the colors are real nice and bright, and they sit on top of the base coat very well. And they have lots of options, and they're very clear as to what the options are. You know what I mean? Base, layer, texture, so, so on and so forth. And however, they are expensive. You don't get a lot in a pot. Their washes are okay. I don't care for their washes. Their textures and stuff are out of this world. I love their textures for basing and stuff. So like a Zandari dust or Armageddon dust is what I'm thinking of. Armageddon dust or stuff like that. Like, those are really good for like desert / dirt ground, painting over. So that's Citadel. Have you used Citadel paints?
I've used Tester's paint.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you did that.
Trashed here.
Yeah, okay. So if you're new and you haven't painted yet, don't go get regular model paint from like the store. Like, don't do that. It's an oil-based paint and not an acrylic paint. It's
okay. So let me talk about my mistake there.
Yeah.
First, you can't get out of anything. It ruins your brushes. It ruins your palettes. It ruins your sink mostly.
Okay. Let me back this up. The reason why is, like I said, it's an oil-based paint. The only thing that takes care of oil-based paint is paint thinner.
Sure does.
Okay, so that's it. So no water. You can't wash it off with water. You can't clean it out of anything. You need to have a very specific thinner cleaner in order to clean that stuff.
Yep. I ruined a sink. Well, I thought I did, and I panicked. so I had to I had to go buy thinner and dump in my sink and scrub it off. Um, but yeah, I use Citadel primarily. I It's not that I don't like other paints, minus testers. It's that's all our store really had for a while, so it's all I could buy. That was all like my access to was just Citadel paints,
Yep.
which ends up being they're good,
Yeah.
right? So it wasn't like I didn't get I don't feel like stuck or anything, but no, I mostly use Citadel. I know you're gonna get to Army Painter next, but I like the Army Painter system of you base it, you paint it, and you dip it in the dip, and then you're good, right?
Yeah.
Like I like their system, and I wish I'd seen that first. Just because I want mine table ready, I don't care. Like I want them just to look on the table. I don't need them to be really like high precision. But and I'll let you go. So yeah, Citadel is what I use.
Okay. So then next is Army Painter. I like Army Painter for the following reasons. It's cheaper than Citadel. The paint is watered down a little bit. It's not as thick. Um, I don't know if I like that or hate it. It depends on the day and it depends on the color of paint. Sometimes, depending on the color, and how much you shake it and like really like get it, mixed up, it's good. But then some paints, the it's really thin and watery, no matter how much you shake it and stuff. So it's a 50-50 with
Gotcha.
that. I really like their washes. I like their washes a lot. I like a lot of their, and I'm guessing because they're called Army Painter, but I like a lot of their greens, and camo shades and stuff. They have a lot of good flesh tones for skin color, and they actually have flesh washes that are meant. So a wash is basically a thinned out pigment, that drips into the recesses of all the shadow areas of your figure and creates kind of that 3D effect of shadowing without doing much work. And I find that the Army Painter washes are much better.
I've used the 40K washes, and I know that if you want to make your miniatures really pop and go from like 0 to 5, giving them a wash after you base paint them makes them look way better. Like I was so surprised the first time I used it how it really gave the shadow to like faces
Hmm.
and just different like filling in spots. So I was shocked because I just used to base them. And I'm like, why do I just not like have something extra? Like what's the secret? But yeah, no, a wash, whether it be Citadel or Army Painter, is really helps out a lot.
Yeah. And I will say that you can buy, I think I got it. I think it's like 100 and something now for like this giant box of Army Painter paints. But like, I got it when on Amazon it was like $70, and there's like 118 paints in there. Like it was ridiculous. And so the volume that you can buy is much better. Same with Vallejo, right? So let's do Vallejo next. They got their consistency is kind of in between the two. It's okay. I find that I have to water it down more times. I find that it's inconsistent from a paint, and I don't care for it. Basically, I'll use it in a pinch if I need to, or if there's a color that they have that I can't really find anywhere else, I'll
Yeah.
use it. But I'm not a fan. And then the other downside to both Vallejo and Army Painter is they're in these squirt tubes, not in
Okay.
pots. So you have to have something like a paper plate or an art, um what's the thing I'm thinking of, palette,
Palette.
art palette, that yeah, that you have to that you have to pour the paints in. And I find I end up not knowing how much I need, and either I've poured too little or too much, and then what do you do with it? You can't get it back in the squirt bottle. Like it's a whole friggin' thing. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of their downfalls.
Gotcha. And what he means by pot means like the bottle, the actual. A lot of times people refer to Citadel paints as pots, like per little paint
Yeah,
bottle.
yeah. So if you haven't seen it, basically what it is imagine it's like a, I don't know, like a cup, and then it's got this top that's got a hinge. So you pop the top off and it hinges, so the top stays on. It doesn't come off. You can't
Yep.
lose it. But then it kind of has this mechanism that it's all plastic. It locks it in place, and that the cap has this lip that the paint kind of sticks in. And so once you shake it up, you pop the top, some paint gets caught in that lip, and then you can use that as your palette.
Yeah, it's pretty ingenious.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
For me, it's worth the money because of those things. But let's say if you don't have the money and you're just trying to get some cheap paints, I would go Army Painter. That's your best bet.
Yeah, like I was saying before, they have this new system where they walk you through. You buy a base spray. So let's say you just want gray as like a good neutral one, and then you give your base paints, and then they have a quick shade, which is just like looks like a can of varnish, more or less. You pop the top, you dip them in, you give them a shake. Do this outside. You give them a shake, and it fills in the gaps pretty well. And that's like a real easy. You could do a bunch of guys in an afternoon, right? If you like just put them all like I want brown pants, I want blue shirts, and I want green hats. And then you dip them in the shade, and then they look pretty okay.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea, so Army Painter or Citadel, excuse me, let's start with Citadel paint for one pot is about $4, $5. For Army Painter, it's about $2 to $3. That gives you a good price. So, like I'm looking, there's a set. Oh, it's 50, not 118. I thought that number was ridiculous. So Army Painter has a mega paint set with 50 paints for $80 on Amazon. We're like, okay, so if I'm gonna, yeah, that's really good. So Citadel, let's see, Citadel paint set. I'm Googling this as we look. Okay, so for $80 or $90, you could get 50 paints with Army Painter.
Yeah.
Okay. For $40, you can get almost $40 to $50. You can get what is this, 20 from Citadel? I guess that's almost close. That's close. So maybe it's not as expensive when you buy more. I'm kind of going back on what I said there a little bit. That's interesting. So $40 for 20 paints, 25 paints, 24 paints for Citadel, and then 80 for 50. Yeah, so it's half.
All right. Yeah.
That's not bad. I guess maybe it's the singles I'm thinking of. Singles seem to be a bigger problem with Citadel. They're more expensive.
Gotcha.
But
yeah, they do those good, like buy a marine and
Mhm.
get build and paint a marine, which is a good way to practice actually.
Yeah, and so okay, so now it's time to go buy a paint. What do I need? All right, here's my recommendation. Get white and black, no matter what you're painting. Get a white and a black, okay? Let's say you're painting rebels. I would say pick the base colors, okay? So let's say a rebel Z6 squad, you would have on one mini you have brown, green, tan, skin tone, black/gray for the weapon. Okay, right? Roughly. Here's my recommendation. Get a brown. Get a couple greens. 1, 2 greens, okay? For different, if you want to do some camo or you want to do some different, like you want their shirt or their jacket to be a different color from their hat, a different color from their pants. Get a flesh tone. Flesh tone's the hardest to mix right. Okay, you're never gonna mix flesh tone right. That's it. Now you're asking, what about all those other colors? Yeah, you have black and white.
Yeah,
go mix those
that's
colors.
Fair. That's fair, yeah.
Right? If you want, think about so for those of you who don't know about this, think about probably a lot of you haven't thought about this since you were in grade school. Is the primary versus complementary colors. So what you want to do is go, I'm Googling it right now for you. So you can go up, you can Google, and you can get like a color wheel, right? And it's going to tell you primary colors are red, yellow, blue, and they make secondary colors when they're mixed. So red and yellow make orange, yellow and blue make green, blue and red make purple, so on and so forth. You can make colors from base colors. So what I'm saying is, I'm trying to tell you, black and white are key. You need those. Then get some base colors for your mini, and then just think about what can I mix to make a secondary color if I need it. And now you're not buying a fourth, fifth paint for that.
Yeah. Because I follow the trap of I'll buy like all the grays, right? Or I could just mix them.
Right. Or the other thing they trick you into is getting like the one dark gray, then the highlight version of that gray, right? Don't do that. Just add some white to your gray.
Yeah, that's a good idea because I have highlight grays.
Right. Just add some white to your green to get a lighter green. Like it's literally that simple. Add a little bit of black to get a darker green.
Stop making sense, sir.
Right. So okay, so now you got some primary colors. Flesh is the only one that's tricky. You want a flesh tone, like that's an easy win, right? So you pick a green, a blue, a flesh tone, a red. You got black and white. You get maybe a yellow. Yellow's tough to make. So those are your base colors, and now you can pretty much do anything from that. So now the reason I don't, like with the color wheel, right? You can yellow and blue are going to make green. It's hard to get the right green that way. So especially if you're painting the rebels and you want them to be green, you know, make sure you get the right green to start with. Get a dark green, and then you can lighten it up from there. Then the same with like tan. You just use the brown, and you just add white, and you'll get tan.
Okay, gotcha.
So you know what I mean? So you could use a darker brown for the boots, lighten it up with some white for the shirt, and now you got a tan khaki shirt. Boom.
I for my khaki I bought it, but I I was actually looking to buy different khakis again, so adding white or black. That's a good idea. I didn't really even think about that. I just assumed I bought because there's so many different colors of Citadel.
Yeah.
Like they even have an app you can take a picture of a color.
That's how
and
they trick you.
Yeah, what to mix to get that color, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I go to paint a model, and I've got maybe two or three paints in front of me in black and white, and that's all I work off of. That's how I do the highlights. That's how I do the shading. That's how I do everything.
That's fair.
Yeah. So you get and we talked a little bit about this, but I'll go through it again. So now you've mixed your paints. Now you got your colors. Now you've put them on your model. What do I do now? Okay. Well, what first? I would recommend, and you'll appreciate this because for especially for newer players, a lot of times you'll see people base the base of your mini and your mini separate. You paint the mini, you put all your textured stuff on the base, and then you glue your mini to the base. Don't do that. Here is why. Because the glue is strong, correct? So you're probably going to use super glue. You're going to super glue your feet to the texture or whatever you put on that base. That texture or whatever paint or whatever isn't strong. It will peel.
Gotcha.
So if you drop, you've now lose your mini off of your base.
Gotcha.
So what I generally do is, and this is preference, but if you want to do this quick, if you want your minis to be strong, I put them all together, I glue them to the base, and then I prime the whole thing together.
Mm-hmm.
So now plastic to plastic is what the glue is.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to create a stronger bond.
That's how I did my rebels. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I base around his feet. Or her feet, whatever your mini is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I've based. So what I do is I do my base last. So I paint up because I can make mistakes and accidentally paint the base. I'm just going to paint over it, so it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So I got my whole mini painted on. I have brown for the boots. I've done, I've my first color, your base color after you've primed it.
Mm-hmm.
What you do now is you either dip or you go take a brush and you put on your wash onto your mini. You can just wash the whole thing. You can just dip the whole thing, or you can try to take a brush with a fine tip and just paint the wash into the creaks and crevices of where the shadow's going to be, right? You could do that. There's two parts to this. If you're very careful and very patient, you can just paint all the creaks and crevices. You'll be fine, okay? And then you won't have to do another layer over. Now, if you don't want to do that and you just want to dip, or I just paint the whole thing, with the wash. Then I take those paints, that my original base paint, and I just go over and paint the highlights. It's that simple.
That's fair. I didn't do highlighting on mine. I just dipped them.
So you can do right. So you can do either that and then come over with the highlights. So you could do that one of two ways. You could do that carefully and paint all the highlights, or you can do a technique called dry brushing, which I talked a little bit about last week. It's where I take a brush I don't care about because you're going to mess it up. You kind of want a wider brush, not a thinner brush, and you dip a little paint on of it, maybe wipe it on a paper towel or on your hand until you get a good, like you're just getting a little bit of paint off of it, and then you're whisking it across the areas. And the reason you're whisking it is when you do this technique, it just catches the high areas and not the low areas. So now you're taking that highlighted color. You could even, I would just use the base at first, and you just across that color. And now that's going to bring all those high areas back up.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's quick, it's easy, it's dirty, you can get it done. And then you could even come in, lighten up that color with a little bit of white and get it maybe a shade brighter, and then come over and do a little bit more of that and just do it in certain areas with the dry brush. And now you got a secondary highlight color.
Okay.
And now your model's going to start popping.
Yeah, I think that's what I should do with mine at some point, is actually go give them a dry brush of what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to do something like that with the weapons, so I painted them black and I did the dry brush technique on the guns to make them look like battle worn, like youth.
Yeah, that's what you do. So what you can do, like with weapons, is great. So generally what I do is I base them black. I start with black. I paint my guns black. I then mix up a gray with my black and white that I bought, and I get it to like a medium gray, not too bright, not too dark, like a gunmetal gray. And then I what I do is I generally dry brush from there. And then I go to white and I dry brush from there, or like a light gray, and do another dry brush. And that gives you everything you need for a weapon.
Yeah, it's perfect because every weapon in Star Wars is like black for the most part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Besides like lightsabers or something. So
yeah,
like black pretty far.
Yeah. And so, that's how you do that. Then what I do is once I'm done painting, I then base my mini. And what I mean by that is I either get a textured paint, or, you can do this very easily. I'll teach you how to make a textured paint actually right now. So you're going to base your mini. I'm going to teach you how to make your own base. So what you can do is go to any art store. You're going to go in the paint section. You're going to go to the acrylic section. This is important. Acrylics. You do not want oil paints. You do not want watercolor. You want acrylic paints. You could get yourself a brown, and you can get this stuff called coarse texture gel. You mix them together. The coarse texture gel, and you can make this yourself too by just putting sand in your paint, is basically a sand gritty gel. You mix it with the paint. It doesn't dilute the color of the paint, but it gives it this texture. There's also actual paint texture that's not coarse, that'll actually give you like a thick, and it'll dry thickly, so you can do that too. So that's a good way of making your own base paints.
Gotcha.
So generally, let's say I want to do a desert kind of a base, okay, or even like just kind of like what you see on the FFG bases, on their website and stuff. I'll take a coarse texture gel. I'll take a brown, just a standard brown. I use this company Liquitex. They have this paint called Basics. You can find it at any hobby store. Not hobby store, excuse me. Any paint art store like a Michael's or a Hobby Lobby. It's called Basics. It's a acrylic paint. I take a brown, which is called burnt umber. I get a white. I get a coarse texture gel that I use. It needs to be acrylic, used with acrylic paint. I mix the white and brown until I get like a nice tan or sand color. I then mix in the coarse texture gel. I then apply it to the base, and it now gives you this bumpy, gritty feeling on your base. And these are literally like $3 or $4 for this huge tube of paint.
That's not
like it's like 6 inches high, and it's just a huge tank. Like I literally, you could paint 2 whole 800 point armies with this and still have plenty of paint.
I use for mine is I do mine real real rough shot. So I take whatever I want the color of the ground to be. So I did white because I had my guys walking on salt or snow, your choice. And then I actually had salt flock, not salt flock, white flock I bought from Army Painter. And then I painted the base white. Then I dipped them in the flock and I gave them a shake. And I pulled them out and looked like they were walking in snow. And
Yep.
so I've got green flock I'm going to do with my Imperials. So
Hmm.
I got to be a little bit more careful this time. So being because if you splash white around their shoes, looks like there's snow on their shoes. So
Yeah.
I can get away with that. It's weird when they're just covered in grass for no reason. Uh,
Yes.
so, but I brought the flock, and you can get even special glue that's made for just doing bases from Army Painter. Of all, go figure.
Yeah, you can. So here's the you want to know a cheap way of doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you take Elmer's glue, school glue in the bottle, and you mix it with water.
Oh, okay.
And and you just dilute it down to like a nice water.
Yeah.
That's going to be like have a little bit of a white feeling to it, but it's going to be more watery, and you just kind of apply that, then put on your flock.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, because I'll do that. And then I've got mine that are not from Army Painter, but you can get them from Army Painter. Little like bushes, little
Yep.
tufts of grass that glue right to the base. So you can make them look like they're walking through like a. I think I used those to determine different leaders. I have like the grass in different spots for myself.
Yeah.
Uh, different roles. But no, I was really surprised how good my rebels came out. Um, I'm hesitant to start my Imperials because I can't. I'm gonna be playing Imperials again for a little bit to swap them
Hmm.
back. Death Troopers are out, and either I'm gonna stick to my guns and do my Cobra Vipers, to really give them that because I've got a Cobra Commander Darth Vader. Or am I gonna do like I want to do like German soldiers to kind of match my
Yeah.
GI Joe American GI rebels?
Yep.
So they're gonna be like a gray. So it's gonna be. I got to find a list I like though first before I start painting.
Yeah. So I just want to back up. So back to the basing. So you can create that base texture that I said, or you can go get like an Armageddon dust texture paint from Citadel. You paint it, you let it dry. It's got to dry all the way through. Then you do the same thing you just did with your mini, where you do a wash and then you do a dry brush of like a light. Let's say we're doing desert. We mix the brown and the
That-
white. Um, we then washed it, which darkens it up. I would recommend using a red wash or a flesh wash. And then once that dries, you then come over, you lighten up that brown again without
okay.
the texture in it. And then you do a dry brush over that. And that's going to give you a really nice 3D. And then you can add your flock, what we were just talking about. You can make your glue, or you can go get scenic glue, and you brush it on there. Then you add your flock, or you add your little bushes or whatever, and
Hey, that's
that's it.
perfect. That's easy.
Yeah, yeah. And then what I do after that is, I tend to take my base, the rim of my base, so the edge, and depending on what unit they're in, I color my base, the rim edge of the base is different colors, so I know what unit they're in, and I make them very distinctly different. So like I know this one is orange, this one is red, this one's green, blue. Like I try to use very stark
Yeah.
colors, so that myself and my opponent know what unit that mini is part of.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I do rings around my bases. I like radical colors, like 80s colors, so I have them very standoutish with my rings around my bases to determine who's in what group. So I don't have to use numbers because those
Yeah.
little number tokens. There's enough tokens in the game. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have little number tokens kicking around with them too.
Yeah, agreed. And I don't really think anybody uses those anymore.
Nah, I mean it's just so easy even to put like a sticker
Yeah.
or something, right? There's just easy ways to do it.
But yeah, so that's painting. The other thing I wanted to talk to everyone about is if you're familiar, I know Evan is, there is this miniature game called Infinity. Okay. It's been out
Yep.
gosh, 4 or 5 years now. 4 years.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
out for a while. Yeah.
It's big in the UK and in Europe. It's got some traction here in the States, not a ton. I don't know about Canada. But here's the thing about that. And I found this out just by dumb luck. So we were big into Affinity. I was a couple years ago before Legion came out, because I'm a sucker for mini wargaming. And all all these companies like Micro Art Studio, Warsenal, make all this great terrain for Infinity. Well, when I bought into Legion, I had a bunch of Infinity MDF terrain and all this different terrain that I had built or had that I bought and then put together for Infinity, and I noticed something. It's the same scale, number 1.
Nice.
Number 2 is Infinity is a futuristic like there's all these different planets and space and all this
Yeah.
stuff, right? It kind of fits in with the Star Wars stuff.
Well, what's about Star Wars and Infinity? What's in comparison to Warhammer's like everything in Warhammer is blown up and it sucks, right? Like there's nothing good. There's no like beautiful city you fight in. It's all destroyed terrain and broken citadels. Well, Infinity and Star Wars, like, nice places exist, right? So you can have
Yeah.
like a nice cityscape and it's not weird or anything.
Yeah, well, and then to even like, okay, so for instance, what is it? Warsenal, they have all these different types of terrain that actually fit in. Like they have this one, I actually have it. Rachel's working on putting it together. It's called El Kazaba. It's almost like a Jeddah type buildings, like a desert, like Middle Eastern type feel, but looks a
Okay.
lot like Jeddah. They have this one called Comanche that's a lot like Endor, the building style. Like there's landing pads and there's like the little a pillbox that looks like the kind of looks like the bunker from Endor. There's like a Japanese kind of style one that yeah, I mean there's all these crazy different designs out there. Oh, they got one that's like a colony one, like a Martian colony one, but that would work great for like
Yeah.
for Star Wars too, like for an interior of a ship or something, right? Like it's crazy. So what I'm saying is what I'm getting at is there are ways to go outside of Star Wars specific terrain to make some really interesting and cool terrain pieces that maybe people won't see or maybe see coming or maybe they fit in to a particular planet style, that
Yeah.
you don't have yet. There's a lot of options out there that you can absolutely look into.
No, that's good. You know what? It's a good point you brought that up because I'm so like since we've been, you and I are pretty into Legion at this
Hmm.
point. I'm always like I want Star Wars stuff,
Yep.
right? Because our store just has Warhammer stuff, and I'm real like Star Wars is cool because like you can go to like Coruscant
Yep.
and that place exists and it's a city and it's I'm sure there's beaten down places, but there's also pretty places, right? It's not all just broken garbage.
Right.
Uh, and so like Infinity is a really good place to look too because Infinity's like strike teams in a city and no one knows it even happened,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like 4 or 5 man teams going in to fight over a point or get that piece of data or something. But they even make like beautiful like electronic billboards and
Yeah.
stuff. That's great. It's a good idea because you don't even having something futuristic that looks nice is Star Warsy enough most of the time that it
Yeah.
totally makes me happy. But yeah, I'm just so done with like burned out buildings and like ruined citadels kind of thing that anytime I see anything that's not that, I get really excited. I'm like, oh, holy crap, is that a like Oriental city from Test of Honor? Well, these miniatures just look about big enough. All right, let's use that, right? Like, so I'm always jazzed for that. So that Infinity's a really good outlet for that.
Yeah. And so, I guess what I'm encouraging is just looking outside of the box, looking at things in a different way. Like for instance, I built an Endor table. And those trees that I have, Evan,
Yeah,
for the Endor table. So those, I basically was at the dollar store and they had like, Donatello's bow staff.
yeah,
So they had in the toy section for the kids, like a Halloween type thing, but it's like a screw together bow staff. But I was looking at it and the tree is maybe 10 inches, the wood part of the bow staff. So I was like, wait a second. So I bought like 15 of them for $15 at the dollar store. I cut the I cut the handles off of all of them, and all I had was these basically like these tree
yeah.
trunks. and then I glued them onto a piece of foam. I did a quick wash over it, and then a little bit of a dry brush paint. And you've seen them; they look like tree trunks.
I can just see the guy checking out. He's like, "You got everything you need, pal? Yeah, having a party?"
Well, that's He the woman asked me if I was having a kids party or something, and I was like, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, a party for kids.
Yeah. That's the ticket.
That gets me out of here.
And I think we mentioned this when Dave was on. There's look, and I think Sean Morris actually mentioned this in a post. Somebody was asking about how to get ferns for like an indoor table, and he was like, look up HO, which is the model train size. HO is a size of track. Look up HO palm trees on Amazon, and then you just take the palms off and you use those for ferns.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So look at train stuff. Look at there's all look at dolls, like the doll houses, like at some of these hobby stores.
Yeah.
Sometimes they have weird and odd things. And so what I'm just encouraging everyone out there to do is just kind of like keep your eyes open and peeled and see the possibilities in different stuff, because there's plenty of options out there for train for people who don't have a ton of money, that can't just go out and buy 3D printed or all this expensive train or get a 3D printer. You have plenty of options, my friends.
No, I agree, because that's actually we have a big hobby place called Walt's Hobbyland, and he's got a ton of train stuff. And man, you can make some really good looking like scenic terrain with that, without having to like break the bank on it.
Yeah. And I mean, these train guys have been doing this for a long time, so they have molds for like rock formations, and they have flocking, and they have trees, and they have all this stuff. So here's an interesting one. So how I made I have a bunch of ferns on some of my indoor stuff, and this is how I made them. Was you go to a Hobby Lobby or a Joanne Fabric, and you go to, or like a Michael's or whatever have you in your area, somewhere that does flower, like the fake flower stuff. And so like Hobby Lobby has all these rows and rows and rows of flower stuff, right? Fake leaves, fake flowers. You go find the fake fern ones, and if you look at them, they're made of smaller ferns.
Oh,
like
gotcha.
They're made out of plastic, and all the leaves are just smaller versions of the bigger fern.
Okay, gotcha.
So what you do is you can just cut them off, and now you can just glue those together and make these small ferns.
Nice.
It's that easy.
Perfect. That's not a bad idea either.
Yeah.
Because I'll say normally I go into I go to back to their model train station, or they have like a modeling station made for like dioramas that have trees and like crops and things like that. So I thought about trying to recreate the Urso farm. That'd be a cool table.
Yeah.
Right. You got you got the ship that lands. You've got Kranich walking across Death Troopers to the Ursos, and they have like a little farm going. That'd be a cool little like scape to do. And they actually have like they sell crops, like rows of crops, which are expensive to buy if you just want all the looking ones. But with stuff like that, you could make something that looks pretty convincing.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many options. Like some of these hobby stores, this is gonna sound weird, but they have these little sections for fairy gardens. Because it's like this new thing that people do, like these fairy doors and fairy gardens, and then they like make them and put them outdoors, or something weird like that.
Something weird that's not for Star Wars. That's what.
Right. You know what? That's fair. We're sitting here talking about how to build faraway planets. They're just doing the same thing, just differently. Yeah. So I apologize. I take that.
That's
back.
All right.
So they make these fairy fairy garden things. And sometimes there's some really cool stuff in there. Like I found these those mushrooms that I have. Like I have these ceramic mushrooms that I found. There's like I think there's like 8 of them for like $5.
Oh, okay.
And they're these giant ceramic mushrooms that are bigger than the actual units. So you can make like a Fallujah type board with these giant mushrooms.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, you just got to know where to look and just be open to the possibilities.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. That's good advice.
Yeah. So I don't know what else. Anything else? I think that kind of wraps it up for me, Evan.
I think so. I don't really have anything else on top of my mind. I'll save. I want to talk about like lists and stuff that I'm going to be currently using, but I think I'll save that for next time. Maybe we,
I think that's good. I think next time we'll talk lists because won't that be right before our rally point?
yeah, and we can just talk about like why. Like, here's a list, why I'm using it, why I think it's good. A spoiler is it has no snipers in it, and I want to see
Ooh.
if I can make a competitive list without them and win with
Yep.
it. And because it looks good on paper, I actually have to give it a try out. But everyone's real concerned about snipers, like 2 or 3 snipers mandatory for lists, and I'm going to see if I can do it without it, and just to not so much prove a point, but just to see if I can even do it. Right? It's more of
Yep.
a test for me. If I can do it, cool. Hey, don't worry, guys. Like, you don't need snipers. But if I constantly get toppled because of snipers, it'd be like, well, no, it's right. 2 snipers is required. So yeah, we'll get to that next time. But that's just a sprinkling of what's to come.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good because I've changed my list from my 12 activations, my infamous 12 activations that I always talk about. And so I will actually, what we'll each have maybe 3 or 4 list
Yeah,
iterations that we had before we settled on the list. I
yeah,
think
that's a good
that'll be
idea.
cool.
Because
Yeah.
even without the snipers, I still have 9 activations. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty okay, right? You can
Yeah.
do it.
I have a pretty good Krennic. I have a couple different Krennic ones that I'm really
Yeah, I
high
got
on.
Krennic too. It's just cool.
Yeah.
He's like, he has a little bit of that palpability with Compel, but you don't have
Yep.
to pay that like 200 point palp cost, so it feels like you
Yeah.
get a little bit more out of him.
Oh, and I have this really interesting 14 activation list that I built. That's ridiculous. So
Yeah, I have a
I'll
pretty
bring
good.
that too, and
All right,
we'll
cool,
talk about all those.
excellent.
All right. Well, once again, everyone, thank you so much for listening and spending time with us every week. Please visit us at thefifthtrooper.com. You can visit us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. We're everywhere, man. Don't forget about the Northeast Open. Register, please, please, please register. And we will hopefully see or hear from you soon.
Thank you, and stay rad.
Join us next week for another edition of the Fifth Trooper podcast.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.